Hello. Now, let's see here. Trying to see. First of all, audio levels are. This is animal control. Hello. Let's create 08. Now, camera adjust. Because it's a little crooked. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I got this camera. I mean, I have this. I'm trying to. Maybe I should get my other. All right, let me get my other tripod. My volume is low. Okay. How do I adjust that? Oh. Okay, let me get my tripod for my microphone. See if that helps. I got so many tripods. It's pretty ridiculous. Okay, that over there. Oh, that's not gonna work actually. Or is it? Oh, this might work. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to hold it. I guess what I can do is take off this. Don't need this. I'm outside. Oh, I'm outside. Okay, hello. Welcome for those who are on the stream. I have still looking here. Trying to don't really know how to read. Okay, so what's going on? Okay, cool. Sounds clear, man. Cool. Yeah, so what happened? I was gonna go outside, but then my neighbor is blasting their music super loud. So it would just sound like a music festival. It would be like you're out in Coachella or something. Which that's cool. But I think it might be a bit distracting because it's very loud. I like it, but I'm like, it'd probably be a little distracting. So I came in, and also I wanted to use this camera that I have, this GoPro. And I forgot, I was about to go online, and then I realized, oh wait, I wanted to use a camera, so so I had to do a lot of things last minute. So that's why I'm a little late. But other than that, much better now. Hello, Y488. We good? So I decided, go ahead, let's just do this. inside today, which is fine. And how are you doing? It's fine. Y'all doing good? I think I saw a few people watching. It's tough because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know the count. But whatever, it's all good. Yeah, maybe I should have did the festival. Well, we'll think about that next time. So today, what we want to talk about is I have a topic, and it is called managing information in today's society. And I have some talking points that I have on my cell phone here. Okay, got it. Okay, so in case you're new, I decided this is the Black Ponder. Hello, welcome. This is a philosophy channel, and currently I'm reading this. It's not even a real book. It's the Hegel's The Science of Logic. Will be my next official video, but it's a long book, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like 800 pages. I actually printed it out because it's for free. You can just download it for free. But I like to highlight and write in the margins. So I'm kind of getting through it, over halfway there. So that video should be coming out. And that's why sometimes you'll see gaps in between my videos, because I'm reading long books, which I always talk about how I'm not about busting out content like at a consistently fast rate. I don't really care about that. Just want to put out videos when I'm finished with books. Yeah, but I decided to try and do some more live stream, because I want to bump up my philosophy game. I call myself a philosophy enthusiast. Maybe I should level up to amateur philosopher, not professional philosopher yet, because I didn't go to college to study philosophy, get a degree or anything like that. But let's bump it up to amateur philosopher. So how do I do that? It can't be a one-way street. You gotta actually talk to people. So I was like, okay, maybe I should talk to people online and in real life about philosophy, and that way I can bump up my game. And so we have some fun. So I think about topics, and we just have the philosophical discussions. So that's where the live streams are coming in. Okay, everybody, no new comments. And I understand not everybody can come on at this specific time. We always leave it. The videos, they're up for you to see later on, and I'm just gonna keep rolling. And you can always interact later. It's all good. Okay, so that's a little background information. So let's see if there's. Oh, so you got to see me looking at the side because I didn't prepare. Because I'm like, I didn't think about. Let me see if I can move a little closer. So now I'm not using a webcam. I'm using a more sophisticated camera. So the resolution is probably going to be a little better. So that's cool. And let's create 08. Says you didn't show up to Japanese class today. Yeah, I was busy. I think I'm going to do that after this stream. Do it late, and which I'm not sure if you'll be available at that time, but I think I'll do it then. Yeah, I'm still trying. The problem is it's hard to be consistent because I got so many things happening going on, and those is not like my job. The live stream Japanese and this is not my job, so this kind of gets less priority than those. Background music, yep, that's cool. I'm liking it. Cool. So let me check to see if everything is excellent condition. Cool. Okay, excellent. All right, so what I want to talk about today is, and then by the way, we can go off topic. If you got a question, ask me anything. That's cool too. I'm not a dictator or an authoritarian about the live streams. If you want to talk about something else, I'm we can more than like, I can definitely talk about some deep conversations that can tread off on different topics. That's cool too. But what I wanted to start talking about is, this whole notion of we living in this world where we got so much information bombarded, internet spewing us with all this info. And sometimes it's true, a lot of times it's not. And it's not just the internet. It's like books, movies, billboards, right? Advertisements. It's just everywhere. And, even your friends and family, or strangers you just talk to. Everybody's giving you all this information. They say, I guess today we get so much information because we're online all the time, as opposed to before the internet. But even before the internet, people have got a lot of info, right? But yet nowadays it's really, really a lot. So how do we deal with that? How do we deal with it? A lot of people are, they're complaining. It's a lot of oh no, how do we deal with this? There is no such thing as truth anymore. Facts don't matter. It's well, calm down. There's a way that we could deal with this. There's things that we could do. Right. It's not all bad. It's kind of a good problem to have. It's just we gotta analyze the data. That's the thing. The philosophy of fun. I actually have a book on that very topic. Eventually I think it's literally called The Theory of Fun. It's written by a video game developer. One day I will. I'm looking at my shelves it's somewhere around here. But that's something I want to talk about too. The theory of fun. There's actually a lot of progress in that topic as well. Interestingly enough, that should be a topic for a video too. But maybe I'll hold that for when I read that book. The philosophy of practicality. So I remember I was on Facebook. Facebook, right? You get people that have opinions on that social media network. And one guy this guy used to be kind of my I used to be cool with him. I went to college with him, but then he kind of started having these alt-right ideas, and I had to cut my ties with when unfortunately when President Trump came to power, people started showing their true colors, didn't they? It was kind of crazy. People you would never have thought wow, that actually came out of your mouth. But it did. So there's this one guy. He was like, the problem with this day and age is there's information backing up every opinion. So it doesn't matter which side you take. There's information backing up that side. And I'm like, that's not true. There's information backing all the sides, but not all information is equal, right? There's there's false information. There's information that's not as strong as other information, right? Not all information, the data is the same level of quality, right? So that's not true, right? And we've kind of lost that ability. There's a whole field in that. It's called data analytics. People, they go to get their graduate degree studying. People they make big bucks doing that data analysis. The company I work for, they got a whole department, data analytics, and literally what they do is they analyze data and say, okay, this data is worth pursuing, this data is not, this is bad data, this is good data, this data is irrelevant, this data is not applicable to this situation that we're doing. So it's a whole thing, right? So when we have a lot of information, we gotta learn how to process. You gotta filter it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Sometimes I hear the whole, "Oh my God, it's just so much information." It's do you know how to? Do you have a filter? But that's kind of the society we live in today. Education doesn't kind of focus. It doesn't focus on our ability to like sift through data and like analyze and determine which is good data and which is bad data. Right? And, you know, that's what I wanted to talk about. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's create a philosophy of anime festivals. I know, right? That'll be something to talk. That might be something to talk about. Anime festivals, Comic-Con. Like, what's the philosophy behind there? That would be interesting. Sometimes those choices have to be made when people change. Yep, I think so. There's some people believe people don't change. I'll never forget. I was listening to an interview of the actor Brad Pitt. You know, the famous actor Brad Pitt. He was saying like people. His idea is people don't change. People fundamentally don't change. That's what he said. He said, you know, people really don't change. And I'm like, wow. I mean, a lot of people don't change, but a lot of people do change. People change all the time. I mean, some people, I get what he's saying. Like, some people are stubborn in their ways, but like change is like part of life, right? Like that. A lot of people will argue that's what life is. That's what existence is change. So how could you not change? And I know a lot of people who are very different from where they are. It was amazing that he said that. Him being like an actor and like his job is to like play the roles of complex human beings, but he thought that maybe he's changed. I heard that several years ago. I'm like, wow, you don't think people change? Because people definitely do change. That's definitely a thing. We should not talk about politics, boring stuff. We might venture into politics. Politics is definitely not boring. It might be upsetting, or it might be just something you're not interested. I mean, it's not boring though. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't. You know, it might be something you're not interested, but it's definitely not boring. Let's see. Data quality, data mining, and so forth. Yeah, right. But, you know, when we talk about data quality, data mining, you know, people tend to like focus on like numbers and like, you know, statistics, and, you know, they don't really they don't talk about like, you know, social things when we're talking about data, you know, data mining, like, data mining like somebody's opinion, right? Like data mining like essays. Like when people talk about data analytics, they're not thinking about, you know, the humanities, but we should apply those things to the humanities, those concepts. See, that's the issue. Okay. Yeah, data from Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah. No, not talking about him. The philosophy of future together. All right, that's another one. Vlad. Some philosopher Vlad Vexier would differ about what? People changing, or politics is boring, or what? Politics is life. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, I'm not saying that's good, but I agree with Bat Shaft. You know, some people will argue, they'll say like, you know, my life isn't a politic. Unfortunately, like, I wish not. It's too bad that it is the case, but life is politics. Like, you know, an example would be like Black Ponder. You know, that's a whole thing that I get into on the channel from time to time. Some people will argue like, oh, why you call yourself Black Ponder? You shouldn't call yourself that. And basically what they're saying is, don't make this about politics. Essentially, that's what like, I don't want to think about it, basically. Problem is, like, I could ignore that. I could ignore, like, well, I'm just not going to acknowledge that. Problem is, it doesn't matter if I acknowledge it. Society at large will acknowledge my blackness, and I'm going to be affected by my blackness, as we've seen, as we are noticing in society. It don't matter if you acknowledge you're black or not. Like, society is going to treat you a certain way based off of who you are, and that's politics. Politics is about power. There's power dynamics, right? And we it's too bad, because people want to live in this delusion, right? This dream world where, like, oh, I could just pretend like it's not happening. Problem is, it is happening, and we're constantly reminded. You just look at the news. Some people, that's why a lot of people, like, I don't look at news, because the reason why you don't want to look at news, because you don't want to remind yourself or, like, accept the reality that actually politics is life. Right? And you really can't ignore it. You could try to ignore it, but you really can't, right? So yeah, that's my position as well. When do you think we will colonize Mars? I don't think that's something we should be concerned with, honestly, to be complete. We got so many problems on Earth. Like, I honestly don't think, like, why are we even, like, that is so, like, not something we should be worried about. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think, like, there's so much things on Earth we should be concerned about. Why the hell would we focus, like, huh? But again, like, I think that's people ignoring, like, I don't want to think about all the stuff that's happening on Earth. Let's focus on, like, other stuff, and let's leave the problems on Earth, and let's go to other planets and shit. It's like, is that escapism? You're just trying to, like let's pretend these things aren't happening. We'll colonize. That's what a lot of these rich people who are talking about Mars colonization, they just want to, like, kind of run away or, like, escape. That's how I think. I don't even, what do we colonize Mars? I honestly don't care, to be completely, like, until we address some of the like, some of these problems on Earth. To me, that's, like, kind of irrelevant. But that's just me. That's just me. Data migration, you probably know since you study software engineering. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, so I have a degree in computer science, so, like, that's the data, and I'm just saying we should apply that to the humanities, like, when people debate off of, social problems, buzzwords that people don't want to, like, they want to shy away from, like gun control. Oh, nobody wants to talk about that, right? That's the thing that's happening, right? Or, like, what else? Abortion rights? No, we don't. Nobody wants to talk about that. Although that's the thing that's happening, and it's like, people's lives are being affected by it. We should data analytics, the same type of data analysis techniques we use in the IT. We should, like, apply those to, like, humanities, but for some reason we're like, that's not important, like, or, like, I don't talk about politics. I rather I just focus on technical stuff. So I don't know, one thing I don't like is politics at work. Well, the thing is, it can be distracting, but I don't know what you mean by, are you just saying, like, people talking about politics at work, which can be that can get you fired for in some places, some companies you work for, or are you talking more about, like, the hierarchies, like, executives have this political power and you got to play this kind of game to, like, climb the corporate ladder? Are you talking about those kind of politics? Because that's the thing too, that does suck. That does suck. Oh, cool. Hello, Dequan Tay Home or Horn. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mispronounced that for real. Sorry about that. You found me with my Walden video. That was my very first video. Walden is my favorite book of all time. So that's great. Cool. Welcome. Yeah. You don't like to engage in politics. The only problem with that is it's going to bite you in the ass eventually. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know it's like upsetting and it's hard. And sometimes you do need to just take a break and be like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to play some video games. I'm going to go to a comic book convention. But the problem is it's going to bite you in the ass. You're going to be ignoring it. And all of a sudden, like, some crazy shit's going to happen. Like, we get an authoritarian as president of the United States, or like a fascist, or like, some law gets passed that really affects you and you didn't even pay attention. You're like, oh shit, that actually happened. And it's like, yeah, because you wasn't paying attention. Just to bring up a classic example, which again nobody wants to talk about, in the state I live in, Tennessee, abortion is legal. A lot of people, they don't even know. They literally don't know. They're like, so eventually, like, I'm in trouble. I got to get an abortion. Actually, abortion is illegal. Like, what? Huh? When did that happen? You see, you wasn't paying attention. So, it's just, it bites you in the ass eventually. That's a problem. Like, if you avoid it, what's going to happen is people who are powerful, they like that. They're like, oh, good. They're not paying attention, so we can do whatever we want and, accumulate all the power. And then you're going to just be left like, wow, what the hell happened to all the power that I used to have? You wasn't paying attention, right? See, that's the problem. Right. 7 billion people, next few decades, we will be. Yeah, I guess so. 7 billion people, 15 billion people. I guess you don't think like climate change disasters are gonna like wipe out a lot of those people. I mean, that's actually not funny, but it's a real concern. Or like a lot of the hunger issues that are happening now, like they're not gonna put a damper on those numbers, or like a lot of other problems that we are dealing with that are causing a lot of people to die, right? Are those problems going to get addressed? I don't know. In many countries, actually, for the first time ever, the population or the rate of people like being born is going down. Right? I think China, that's the case, right? I think I heard Japan, that's the case, right? This generation, right? The millennials, we're having children less because we see the prospects and we're like, why should we have children? So, a lot of millennials are still having children, but it's not like baby boomers, right? We're like, why should we have children, right? Because I'm just gonna get more in debt. So I mean, I don't know if I guess the population will grow, but will it grow to those numbers? I don't know. And then the other thing is, we assume like we don't have all the resources necessary to support a growing population. We actually do. It's just we mismanage a lot of those resources, right? We're like, well, how can we feed all these people? Well, first of all, we gotta stop throwing away 40% of the food that we eat, right? And then we gotta stop, start growing food in more smarter ways, right? And then if we do things like that, then we can drastically, influence those numbers of, supporting populations, right? I don't know. I think that's also kind of misguided to think like, based off of what we're doing with our resources is like, well, I mean, our resource management is like horrible right now. What if we like addressed our resource management? Then we actually could support a growing population, even though we're not really growing, right? As much as people like to think. Okay, let me see some other conversations. We need to create engines that are able to travel light speed to explore other planets for the survival of the human species. Okay. That's a very hard thing to do, right? Travel light speed, that's very difficult. Like, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, right? That's a whole nother topic. We can go there. Let me finish this topic, but if you're still here, we could definitely talk about like why it's so hard. That's such a difficult thing to do. And yeah, like Bad Shaft, who's saying ignoring politics is part of the problem. There's value in engaging in your communities and that they believe in how they feel about the state of things. That's one way to get solid information. Yeah, I agree completely. Conversation. So as an example of that, one of the things that happened, like I think it was last year, I was like, I gotta like stop having all my philosophy on the internet, because internet can people, that anonymity makes people more, it tends to increases people's asshole tendencies. Even with radical, so I made several videos about police abolition. I got several videos about that. I think I consider myself a police abolition. We can talk about that too. A world with no police. There's a lot of research done in that field, by the way. It's not like some crazy off the wall concept. A lot of smart, intelligent thinking has gone behind that. And so you talk to people on the internet about that, they'll just be, they'll call you a psycho. You'll get that internet reaction. But then when you actually, because I actually was like, let me talk to random people on the street, and people who would disagree, but you start like talking to people and they calm down, because you're not anonymous anymore, right? You're an actual human being. You're talking to another human being. And you start saying like, why do you think that? And you start seeing the problems that the community is facing, and you get to know people more, and like, oh, okay, you live over here. Oh, I see you got problems there. And you start really hashing things out. And what are we having? We're having a political discussion, right? We're having a political discussion. So and we're actually like being civil about it, and we're actually starting to like solve problems like the injustice in the criminal justice system. Right? So I think that's true. I never read Walden, but isn't it about living in the woods? Do you think that could be escapism? Yeah, so I made a whole video about it if you want to check it out. Just search Walden. And so it's not escapism. Actually, when Walden, yeah, he built his own cabin in the woods. But he didn't just live in the woods and that's it. Henry David Thoreau is the writer, the philosopher. He would leave his cabin in the woods and he would just go to the towns. Like he would go to the city. He did that on a regular basis. So he wasn't running away. He was just like, I just want to see if I can live without because he was against the government, and so his idea was, I don't want to live with the assistance of city, or I don't want to live being an abiding citizen. He was he didn't want to pay taxes because there was this war going on, the Mexican war, which America was taking Mexican land, because Mexico, before America, in the United States of America was a thing, right? Mexico was much larger than it is now, and what happened? Colonizers came and just stole the land, and he was against a lot of that. So he was like, I'm not paying tax, because a lot of his tax dollars go to the war effort. He's like, I'm not doing that. So, and the argument is, well, you live in America, so you should pay taxes. And you're like, well, forget it. I'm not going to live here anymore. I'm going to go in the woods, so I'm not obligated to pay. I just do that. That was the idea behind it. Even though they, eventually, because since he would still go to the city, they actually threw him in jail. But it wasn't that bad of a situation. It's a whole thing. So it definitely wasn't escapism, right? What was going on? It's fascinating. Yeah, I would encourage you to check out the video. Check out the video. But that's one of my things, my favorite things. The book is great for many reasons. That's one of the things that it discusses, like, where are your tax dollars going? Like, when you live in a society and you're like paying a society, when your society is doing things you don't agree with, how do you deal with that, right? And it kind of also talks about the whole escapism thing. It's like, should you just leave and just go to the woods? He didn't believe that. He was like, no, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna talk to people. Kind of like what we were talking about with police abolition. He would just go to town and talk to people about his ideas. And eventually he actually got thrown in prison because so yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, check that out. We all should be driving electric cars by now. That I agree with. We do see old ass technology, and it's it's just because so much money is invested in oil and gasoline, right? That's why. And these oil corporations don't want people to move on to electronics, because then how are they going to make money? Right? That's all it boils down to, right? But it's so now it's political, right? Really, we're talking about it's not just economic, right? It's a money thing, but the money go because these oil corporations have so much power, right? They actually control. That's why people aren't driving electric cars, right? Because these oil companies have so much power. It's a political thing, right? Yeah, the electric car was made before the gas car, as you stated. Hello, Marcus Doom. I have not read Console Communists. Benefit mankind, yes. Uh-oh, okay. I'm skipping. I better not hit that arrow. I like the philosophy of not gonna. Krishna Moody. Most problems stem from ourselves. We create our own problem most of the time. Yeah, I agree, and that's true, and it's not true. Yeah, it's both true and it's false at the same time. Is that funny? It's like kind of true, but because we live in this. It's kind of like because we don't act a lot, and it's kind of like an ambivalence and like, we live in the, what can I do, right? The world. These problems are so big. What the hell could I do? And that's partly true, right? Like the issue of climate change, right? No one person can solve that, right? It's going to take it's going to take all of us. Society has to change, and like one person can't do that. So it's kind of like, we put ourselves in this situation, but at the same time, one person can't change like everything. Like, so yes and no. It's like we have to collectively as a society decide this needs to stop, and that's hard, right? But how do we do that? We gotta talk to one another, right? Instead of just like getting into these internet tribes and just like having these echo chambers. We gotta like talk to each other, like people we disagree with, and that's how we can start like effectively changing as a whole, because that's what's needed now. We have to like, all of us have to come together like globally even, and be like, okay, this needs to like, we gotta like change. That has to happen for a lot of these problems to take place. So how do we do that? We gotta get out of these echo chambers and these internet social groups, right? That's hard, but that's what I'm trying to do. according to self-knowledge and self-awareness is the solution to most of our problems that we create ourselves. Yeah, some of that is true. I think sometimes though, like, so a lot of our problems can be answered when we look outside of ourselves, which I think a lot of problems are created because we assume that we have the answers ourselves. Like, oh, it's deep within ourselves. We can solve all problems. It's like, no, actually, you gotta go out into the world and like find the problems, find solutions from other people, right? And so it's a lot of listening, right? And it's a lot of like being humble and like just dropping that ego and be like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Can you like explain this to me? Or like, what's your experience? How do you live? And you might think you have these preconceived notions about certain things and certain people, but you really don't know anything. But the problem is sometimes you have these schools of philosophy who they think like, oh no, it's deep within you. You know everything, right? Or like or maybe you don't know everything, but you have the capability to know everything because it's your responsibility. It's like, now sometimes it's the responsibility of others, right? In the sense like other people can explain things to you that will help you out to solve the problems, right? And it's a case like there's really nothing you yourself can do other than just kind of do nothing and listen or like observe or like take in, right? So that's another thing I think about a lot. When it comes to human nature, there's both the bad and the good, yin yang. Yep, that is true. The Taoism is and then we mentioned this in the previous stream about how Taoism focuses on the in between, right? Like there's no good person and there's no bad person. There's like people that are good and bad, right? All right, or like what else? Yeah, and oftentimes we focus on these either ors, and the reality is there is no either or. Reality is very complicated and like. Yeah. Cool. Spontaneous awareness. Cool. Yeah, so I'll bring up some other things that I wanted to discuss. I remember when I was a little kid, and this is before I'm like Generation Y, I think. So I'm like one of those people who recalls the world without the internet. And when I was a little kid, we didn't have the internet. So, and we didn't even have computers. Now everybody has a computer, right? Which that's funny, huh? I feel old. But so in elementary school, this was common. Like you'd have like a computer lab. The school would have a computer lab. I don't know if schools still. I don't think so. I think a lot of schools now my little cousin went to a school and they gave him a laptop. So he had no computer lab. It was just like he was given a laptop. Like everybody has computers, and of course like everybody has a computer on their cell phone now. But we had computer lab, and in computer lab in elementary school, you literally you learned how to use a computer. Like you learned how to type. Like you literally learned how to type. I don't think they teach that anymore because it's not necessary. Like we had words per minute and shit. Like that's like not a thing because people just children can type super fast now. Or you don't even need to type on a keyboard. Everybody's just typing on a flat screen. So which is fascinating. So you just learn how to use a computer. So I bring that up because it's like, should we have computer lab today? I guess I'm pretty sure they probably don't have that. But I think like we should still have computer lab or like a designated time for kids to like learn how to use the computer, but it'll be different now. It's not like you're teaching kids how to use the computer because, you know, kids use the computer when they're like 4, right? Or younger, right? Now it's just like, I think we should just focus on how do you deal with information on the computer. Right? That should be like the whole focus now. Like, you know, they should literally have a class time. It's like, okay, we're gonna go to computer lab, and it's like they should teach you like about the internet and how, like, you know, a lot of this information on the internet is false. So how do you know which is false and which is real? And that kind of thing. Or like, you know, you gotta be careful because you might get in some group, and then the group just starts like giving you opinions about things, and everybody's just like supporting each other with their opinions, and it just becomes this rebound effect, this echo chamber, and like you tend to start thinking like you know everything, and it's just like positive reinforcement, and you gotta like break free from that, you know, that kind of thing. I think they still should have computer lab, but it should be like very different. It should be like internet lab. Not teach you how to use it, teach you how to navigate through the internet. Kind of like how people say, like, you know, they should teach you about finance. Nobody, you know, in school, nobody teaches you how to save money or make a budget or like, all that kind of stuff. I remember that was a whole thing. Like, nobody teaches you how to like start a savings account or use a credit card or things you actually need. You know, they should also think about like internet navigation, because that's like a thing that's messing people up left and right. Yeah, that's a real thing, right? People believe all types of shit. Right? That isn't true because they don't really know how to sift through information effectively. Right? You should teach that to little kids. Yeah, they need information literacy classes. Yeah. And, you know, critical, how do you say that? Yeah, not just the ability to read the information effectively, but also the ability to like analyze the information and be like, okay, how do you know that this is real? Like, how do you know? And then, you know, you focus on like, okay, you got where the sources, or where is this information coming from? Check the sources and works cited in the bibliography, you know, all that stuff. Like, they should teach that, which they, you know, I don't know if they, I assume like that's still part of curriculum, because I know that's the thing when you write essays, you learn how to like do a works cited. Like, you gotta be able to support your information. You know, you should definitely teach that, not just the information you produce, but like the information you consume. Like, okay, where are their works cited? They don't have one. Okay, this information is not. I'm not gonna really put much weight in this information. It doesn't even cite its sources. Right. So, who does that now? No, barely anybody. It's too bad. I know, right? In my learning to play computer, yeah, see, you know, so you remember computer lab. In our computer lab, we had Prince of Persia Part 1, the first Prince of Persia, and everybody just played Prince of Persia. I heard there was this stupid part of that game where you had to, it was like potions, and you needed the instruction manual to like get the right potion. Like all the potions were poisonous except like one. They had like, I don't know, 30 potions. You had to like pick one. I think it was level 2, and you had to have the instruction manual. I guess maybe they did that to prevent piracy or something. I think that might have been the reason. But you know, they only had one instruction manual in the lab, so you had to wait and like seek it out. But yeah, everybody played Prince of Persia, and also, funny enough, we had Mahjong. Like digital version of Mahjong, which is kind of funny. Where I grew up, it was a large Asian American population, so yeah, we had a lot of the kids were playing Mahjong. I forgot how. I learned how to play that game, but I since forgot, which is a damn shame. I want to learn that game again. I actually have a physical mahjong pieces because it's like dominoes, but it's a little bit more complicated. And I love dominoes. But that was another game that was on the computer lab that everybody, instead of actually like working on their typing, and then the teachers didn't give a damn, so nobody paid attention. It was funny. Right now I'm pondering the philosophy of whether or not I need to use the restroom. Yeah, okay. You don't have to. I'm the only one who should announce it, because if you leave for the restroom, how am I gonna know? Just do it. Yeah, Yeah, we had the Max. Do you think that they don't teach certain things like financial literacy and how to say? Oh yeah, yeah. Do they? I just think generally like education is poor on purpose. I mean it's so obvious, right? And it has nothing to do with. It has very little to do with teachers. It's just it's just like, look at how much money they put in education, which is barely anything. Right? In America, like, public teachers have to spend their own money to buy materials for their students, which is absurd, right? That's just mind-boggling. Why is that acceptable? But it is. And they're like highly underpaid. It's like, teachers should be well compensated, but because like it's such an important job. But there's a reason for all that, in my opinion. And some people be like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. It's just obvious, right? Like, education is, public education up to high school is drastically underfunded. So of course, we could talk about finances and data analytics. Even just talk about math and science. Even though those topics people don't barely learn that. You have to go well out of your way to get good at that stuff. Like, gotta be well resourced. I know the schools I went to, it was horrible. I went to school in the ghetto, East Oakland during the 90s, East Oakland, California, very ghetto. And I felt sorry for the teachers. They just didn't. They had to deal with so much stress. It was sad. And then, when you go to college, it's like, it's so expensive. It's like, why is it so expensive? Like, it just doesn't make it. But that's, it's on purpose, right? Of course, because knowledge is power, right? Right? The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. Politics, again, talking about politics. So, of course, you want to keep your masses uneducated if you're powerful, because then they can't, like, rise up against you. Think about it. That's, we live in an age of misinformation or disinformation, and there's, if they taught you how to learn how to, if you learn how to critically analyze information in school, that a lot of that disinformation thing wouldn't be relevant. People would be like, oh, this is fake, obviously. But there's so many uneducated people, which is not to say the masses are stupid. It's just that our education system is horrible, and that's by design, right? That's what I think. Honestly, I know some people will say like, oh, you're just being a socialist or a communist or whatever. But it's true. It's true. It's like they just teach you the necessary things to be a good laborer, to work in a corporation, or a corporation. So they teach you mathematics, the bare bones mathematics you need to work for a corporation. Or they teach you IT, computer enough so you can work in an office building, they'll teach you what you need to go get a job in the workforce, right? And that's it. Like, you're taught enough to be a laborer, to work for a corporation, but there's no interest in teaching a person how to, like, anything beyond that, like humanities or arts, or like science, theoretical science, or like really high advanced mathematics, like, or like, finances, of course, things like that don't that'll help you not go into debt, because credit card companies want you in debt because then they got you, right? So why would they teach that? So yeah, they just want you to be. They just teach people to be good laborers, right? I know that's like a very like Marxist kind of idea, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not like, I don't consider myself a Marxist. I've read a lot of his work though, and I'm like, yeah, he's kind of on point with this one. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so now I have to take a break, but I gotta feed my doggy. This is the time where I feed my doggy, but I'll be right back. Don't go away, or if you want to go away, it's fine. It's okay. But I'm not going anywhere yet. I just gotta feed my dog. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I have to hold this thing. I didn't want to waste my time getting a tripod. Next time I'll get a tripod. I gotta remember to set up early. And then this could be off view. So let me see. Answer any more chats here. If you're aware, let's create a way. If you're aware of the root of most societal problems, there will be no problems. So what is the root of most societal problems is the question. I have my opinions, but I wonder what yours are. How does one guard against misinformation and disinformation? Well, I mean, as mentioned before, works cited. So if somebody's giving you some information, you got to ask yourself, okay, where are you deriving this information from? Are you just making it up? Is this your opinion? Or do you have actual facts, evidence, things that actually happened to back up what you're saying? So I mean that's number one, right? How much of what you're saying is opinion versus something that actually occurred? You know what I mean? I mean, those are the basic things. I mean, do you have an agenda? Is there like an angle that you're working on? Or you have something to sell me, or are you trying to like why are you even telling me this information? Are you really trying to inform me, or are you trying to get me to think a certain way? These are questions you should ask yourself when you read information. Where is it from? Oops. Oh, I skipped. All social issues come within ourselves. If we are aware of our actions and our wrongdoings, the world will be a much better place. So, what do you mean? All social issues come within within the individual, or like, are you saying the collective? Right? Because that's the big question. If it's because I don't think questions. I don't think social issues derive primarily from just one person or within one person. It's like societal issues derive from like the society, like racism, for instance. Like it's not just one person. Like one person can stop, like can fight against a racist, but if their society around them is racist, right, then I mean that's the whole social structure is the problem. And so that then it's like, okay, the problem is bigger, right? We gotta like what's really, how do we fight against that? I think I actually just posted it. I was just reading an example of that. Just right before the stream, which is why I was late. Let me see here if I can load it. Yeah, I just was reading this. It's a scientific. I'll post it in the chat, but it's also on my Twitter. Here's a good example. Copy, paste. If you want, at your leisure, I'll summarize it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that article is about, it's science. It's a lot of scientific research was put into determining like oil activity, to mining of oil and gas, oil and gas development in the state of California. That's where I'm from. The negative impacts of that disproportionately affect people of color, primarily black people, which probably doesn't surprise anybody, but there's facts right there. And you can, I know it's a lot of words and a lot of graphs, so so that's a problem. But you can look at, they cite all the work, they cite all the research, and you can look into like those citations, and like they talk about the methodology of how they conducted the study. And you can, and based off of that, you can say like, okay, how did they conduct the research? Okay, sounds, fairly legit, using the scientific method. You can also look at the organization, Advancing Earth and Space Science, and check out their reputation and, what they are about. That's another way to do it. Click on references. So that's a good way to do it. But yeah, that's a social problem right there. So like, how do you solve that? Like it's more than just like, oh, we can solve that by looking within ourselves. Right? That's not going to cut it. Right? When you got these gas and oil corporations conducting their business around like marginalized communities where they live, it's more than just I gotta look within ourselves. Like, no, it's their problem. Like they're the ones that are causing it. So we gotta like make it hard for these corporations to do that kind of thing. But they have all the power, so it's different. You know, we have to take away all that power that they have. You can't just be like, well, if I look within myself, then I can solve that. No, right? That's not gonna solve that issue, right? It's a lot more complicated than that, and the answer is political. It's like the politics is the way we would have to deal with that problem, right? Okay, so let's see here. Mahjong is freaking hard to play. Some as Chinese chess. First of all, you have to learn Chinese, or at least learning how to recognize. Yeah, you just gotta learn how to recognize the Chinese character. That's all. I mean, there's a lot of them, but yeah, I don't know Chinese, but there was a lot of people in my class, and when I was in this is elementary school too. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know what those were. I just knew what they meant in terms of like the game mechanics, right? Yeah, it was like it was hard, or maybe, but I mean, I wasn't skilled in the game. Like I wasn't that good in the game, but I knew how to play it, and it was fun. And I guess the kids I was playing with, but I was just as good as like all the Chinese American kids, because it's funny. Like you see something in a different language, you're like, oh no, but you know, you don't really have to learn the language, right? You just to play the game. It's also chasing Chinese, very similar to checkers. Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about the game Go, the ancient Chinese game, which is, yeah, I know that game is very difficult to master. Easy to learn, hard to master, right? So there's a difference. Anybody can really play Go, but if you want to like get good at it, that's hard, right? That's hard. But Go is not. It can get complicated if your focus is I want to get really good at this game. Then it becomes extremely difficult. But if you just want to play somebody casually, you're two casual players. It's not that hard. The Go. Oh, there's a gap between my audio. That might be because I'm using the GoPro. Oh, well, that's good information. Wardoon. That might just be the effect of the GoPro. Or it could be my video capture card that I'm using. That's probably what it is. The video capture card. Because it's very cheap. It's like a USB. I mean, that's like inside baseball. But I think that probably is it. That's too bad. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I wonder, like, maybe it'll just be better if I just use the webcam. This is all an experiment. This is all an experiment. I was trying it out. Yeah, that makes sense that it would have a delay because I'm using very cheap video capture. I'm not sure if it's worth it to buy a really high-end capture card, because I think that would fix it. The other thing is I want to be kind of mobile. I want to kind of stream outside. So I'll look into it. But I think that's why. I might just decide, you know what, webcam, we're just doing it low res. It's fine. At least then my audio and video will be in sync. Yeah, that might actually be better. Let me see. This might actually. I wonder. Should I do this? Should I switch to my webcam in the middle of the stream? Will that break the stream? I'm gonna live life dangerously. Oh, not that one. I don't think it will because I'm using OBS. I think I'm still good. Let me know if that's I know the video quality is horrible now, but am I is the audio lagging? Let me know. I'm also a huge fan of Lao Tzu. Cool. Founder of Taoism. Okay. Chang Tzu, philosopher. Yep. Have you read Tao Te Ching? I've done a video on that, and I've done a video on the book of. I'll link them. I'll link my playlist. Yeah, I've done a video on both those philosophers. I'll give you a playlist. Let's see if I can pull it up right quick. Dang, I thought I could do it fast. Oh, it's just 2? All right, fine. Share. Copy. Paste. That's my Taoism. And I've done a video on both those philosophers. Check it out. Chang Tzu and Lao Tzu. Okay, your insight is very much appreciated. As always, America building oil and gas infrastructure that destroys black people sounds a lot like Canadian ones building indigenous. Yep, it's true. I know Canada is kind of getting, they're having their existential crisis right now because they thought, that the impression is. I'll finish my thought before I. Yeah, the impression was like, we're way better than America. Because racism, that's an American problem. Canada, we don't. That's something we don't deal with. My microphone's too close. But now they're real. Now it's coming apparent. Like, oh no, actually, Canada's just as bad as America. And that examples like that. But I'm looking at my GoPro and my battery is low, so I forgot I didn't have it plugged in. So I might just have to switch my webcam anyway. That's funny. The audio gap isn't massive, but it's substantial for sure. So let me know if the audio gap still persists with this lower quality webcam. Exactly. If we are aware that we are racist, then there should be no racism. Self-awareness. That's what I mean when I say all problems stem from ourselves. If we are aware. Right, but what about people who are aware that they're racist, like white supremacists, right? Who are like Proud Boys, or like Oath Keeper, like those like hate groups, who are like proud that they're racist, or maybe they wouldn't necessarily call it, but that basically that's what they are, and like. They wouldn't. I think they would shy away from racism. But if you were to ask them, like, of course, my people are better than their people, right? They would say, "Oh, of course," right? Like people like that. I don't think it's just like some people are aware that they have superiority complexes, and they think like that's good, right? I mean, that was the whole thing, like, back in Jim Crow South, and or the era of Jim Crow and slavery. Like, everybody was aware that people just thought everybody was lesser than, and that was okay. I don't think that's enough. Right. Oh, there's no audio gap now. Okay. Well, see, we're experimenting. I'm gonna turn this off, this GoPro. I will consider getting a higher end video capture card. Not sure if that's something that I would gonna pursue, but maybe. But I think that will answer that problem. One higher quality video. I honestly kind of like the lo-fi. I know probably a lot of people aren't into that, but I'm into lo-fi look. So I like the way the poor quality looks. I'm weird like that. But I know if I want to get views and lots of subscribers, I need to up my video game. But I mean, the question is, do I care to do that? We'll see. When you're talking about corporations, that's a different story. Corporations are made up of greedy individuals. If they are admitted they are in the wrong, then there should be no problem. Right, but some people, you know how some people are like, "Oh, I know I'm going to hell," or like, "I'll see you in hell," right? That's not just something in the movies. I've actually personally talked to people in real life that have said those things and meant it. Like, "Oh, I know I'm gonna burn in hell, but hey," meaning like, I'm sure like they probably don't believe in the afterlife or whatever, but they know they're doing wrong. They know they're doing wrong, and they're like, "Oh well." For example, I've heard people, you talk about like gun rights and gun control. I've literally talked to people. It's like, we need to have the freedom to have guns, and there's just gonna have to be some sacrifices made. Like, we're just gonna have to give up some things to have the freedom to own a gun. So and I'm like, so it's okay. Like, so one of the things you're able to accept is these like school shootings. Like, that's the thing you're willing to accept. And they'll come back like, look, there's just some things you just have to accept, but we need to have the freedom of go. So they understand. They get it. It's like, I don't know. Some people, I think they either realize they're doing the wrong thing, or they realize like, okay, I know what I'm doing hurts others, but I'm just going to keep doing it because it's better, Some people know they're greedy and they're like, oh, yeah, it's fine. I accept it, because I think a lot of it has to do with, some people just don't care, honestly. But then there's also this whole nihilism thing where people are like, life is meaningless, so who cares? I think that's a lot of it too. But I do think like, like with the Taoism thing, there are no good or bad people. Some people are more, but some people are more the bad than good. I don't subscribe to the whole like all human beings are inherently good. Like, some human beings are just fucked up, what I'm saying? And I'm not saying like they're evil. I'm just saying like they got some fucked up ass ideas. And they're just willing to accept certain things. Like, they just feel like they're better, or like they're worth the hurt that they cause. They're just kind of fucked up. And, I'm not trying to say like, there are, it's complicated. And I don't mean that by saying like those are some evil ass people and we need to seek them out and kill them. I'm not, I don't want to go down that road, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that, I think sometimes people kind of obsess over like all people are inherently good and all we need to do is get them in the right situation and they can be good. Of course, we want to create the right situation for people. Absolutely. And we want to make a world where like people don't have to like, people aren't forced to make fucked up decisions. But I think if you even live in paradise, right, some people are gonna be like, no, fuck that, I'm gonna kill that person, or I'm gonna do this harmful thing to this person because I want it. You know, and not everybody's gonna be like that, but some people are. Right. And I don't know, I that's based off my observation. So how do we deal with that? And I don't think like within ourselves that's not adequate. You know, I don't know, that's just what I feel based off of my observations. If corporations are aware of themselves are greedy individuals and admit they are wrong and change their way, we shouldn't have so much problem, including climate change. You know, it's interesting because in the late 70s, was it Exxon Mobil and I think another giant oil company, the 1978, 1979, they undercover, they just hired a bunch of internal scientists and researchers, they in-house, and they were like, hey, is climate change, like, is that a thing that's actually going to happen? And you know, the people who uncovered this like a few years ago, I think it came out like 4 or 5 years ago, these journalists uncovered, and they won the Pulitzer Prize, which is like the highest honor in journalism for that discovery. They found out like the oil giants they hired, like in the 70s, they hired these scientists to confirm or deny, like, is climate change going to happen? And the scientists was like, oh yeah. You know, around this time and around the year 2020, you know, the late 2010s, early 2020s, you're going to start seeing like massive, radical changes in like disasters, like environmental disasters. If we continue to use fossil fuel in the way that we do, that's definitely going to happen. And so they did the report, and the executives were like, okay. Then they just filed it away and like just put it on the cover. They did that. They actually did that shit, knowing like they knew like, okay, science is telling us this. We're just going to put this on the cover and we're just not going to think about it. Because, of course, like the executives, they're probably old. They're like, hey, I'm not going to be around during that time. Who cares? I'm going to get my money. I mean, that's what happened. It's fucked up, right? So these are people who knew like they were doing the wrong thing, but they decided to just keep it under wraps and be like, so it was, and so, you know, there's this notion that, we didn't know that these things were going to happen. Like we didn't foresee the climate change problem going to happen. Like they knew, like corporations knew this shit was going to happen in the 70s and they decided like, oh, we're just not going to do anything. They knew like people were going to die and disasters were going to they were going to change the environment where people were going to, be displaced. They just was like, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I can cite you that if you want, or like bring up the citation. They don't admit they're wrong and change the words. And sometimes, I don't know, man. Like, sometimes they actually admit that they're fucked up. They're like, yeah, fuck them. I know. I'm a horrible person, so. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I see more often when people do bad things, and I guess I'm more focused on like corporations and like people who run corporations. They're like, oh well. I remember they put the president, whoever they got, Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook guy, he had to do what they call those things, like congressional hearings, because of the misinformation, right? And so he had to like testify in front of Congress. That was like last year or something, or like maybe a year and a half ago. And they were saying like, don't you understand that what's going on with misinformation? He's like, yeah. I'm sure the video's on YouTube or whatever. He's like, yeah. And they're like, how do you feel about it? It's like, he literally said, it's not my responsibility. Like it's the responsibility of the person reading. Like, we are not responsible for, even though, like, come on, man. So he acknowledges like what his company does is misleading people, but he's like, I don't care. That's not my responsibility. So I don't know. I think so so that in those situations is like those kinds of people like Mark Zuckerberg, they're not gonna look within themselves, or they've already looked within themselves and they saw what they're doing. They just made this decision like, I'm not changing. And so as a result, like, that's why we as a society need to be like, this is not acceptable. Right? You're not going to change. Well, we're going to force you to change. Like, it's going to be the law for you to do this, this, and this, and this. And if you don't like it, then you can't be the CEO of a corporation. Regulation and limitation. I mean, that's what we got to start doing. Right. That's my opinion. I know that's a bit mean-spirited, but it just seems like that's the way the world is nowadays, or how it's always been. It's more profitable than any alternative. Any other? Let's see. What I'm saying is, what if not a possibility? Most like not. Yeah, some conversation going on. Hate groups are extreme, but they can also change if they admit they are racist. I mean, anybody has the possibility to change. That's true. Yeah, people can change, and a lot of extremists do change. That's definitely true, right? But a lot of extremists do not change. So when you give somebody, and we've seen it, we've observed this. And literally, like, there are people who are part of these people who are extremists. They will tell you like, no, I think that we are superior. And I still believe that. And I'm not ashamed to say it, like white power type of thing, right? And so like they admit that they're racist, right? But they choose not to do it, When you got the people with the tiki torches, whatever, when I remember that was the thing, and they were talking about Jews don't replace us type of bullshit. They were literally saying Jews aren't replaced, and they were just like wholeheartedly accepting the fact, yeah, we don't like what's going on with Jewish people, which is like, so they're literally admitting like we are this, right? And so yeah. So I don't know, I think those people looked within themselves, saw the ugliness, and instead of like changing, they're like, no, I'm going to embrace this. I don't know. So yeah. And I don't want to say like, well, we need to take those people out, or like, I don't want to start getting into like we need to violently control people, like, because I'm like a non-violent person, but I am all about like regulation. And like I do think like free will is a thing, and like some people decide not to do the wrong thing based off of their own selfishness and greed, and they don't change, and so you have to address that. Right? What do you think about radical solutions to climate change? I never heard of shooting carbon in the air. Oh, hello, Breezy Briss. I know, like, the method of sucking carbon dioxide, CO2, out of the air, which is legit. I mean, that's a thing that can happen. I think that's cool. But it's got to be more than that, right? But that's like one thing. I don't even see that as radical. I know that there's a whole, one of the solutions that has been proposed to deal with climate change. Oh, you just build like, giant like technical suction devices that like suck carbon dioxide out of the air, right? CO2 out of the air. Which is a thing that's technically possible. We can do it. We just need to like invest in it. And I don't really see that as radical. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. And I don't think that's going to be that should be the end all be all. I think we got to do other things as well. And then we have a soul list. Hello. I think an awesome overlooks plants that is that. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to be. I'm called. Their term for me is freegan. So my family, I have a wife and a daughter. They are both vegan, which means like, okay, there's no meat in my household. Am I vegan? I'm trying my best, but the thing is, when they offer me meat for free, I'm not gonna turn it down. And I live in Memphis, Tennessee, which is like they have the barbecue world championships here. It's not hard to get free meat here. Sometimes if I was really a vegan, I'd be like, no, I would abstain. But I don't spend money on meat. So they're saying, so the vegan community says, oh, you're a freegan. Okay, I'm trying. But I agree. I think for me, I actually mostly accept the philosophy of veganism, the philosophy behind veganism. And you're talking about animal cruelty. Yeah. Because if we're cruel to animals, then it is not that far of a step to start being cruel to each other, right? It's kind of like we're conditioned already to be cruel to. So it's not like that. The if we're already comfortable with being cruel to animals, then it's not too far of a leap to start being cruel to each other, right? So if we learned how to be humane to all animals, which is like being a vegan, for instance, a part of being a vegan is about it's that, then we would be more conditioned to be kind to each other and less cruel to each other. Which, yeah, I agree. I just say it. I'm not because I'm not vegan because I'm not strong enough because I was raised as a meat eater, but I'm trying. But I agree. I agree. A solution, a soul list. If children are taught to be racist, parents, they will become racist, but it doesn't not mean that they can't change. Yeah, of course. You can always change. And, there's this idea of being anti-racist. One day I'm going to do a video on that book that, everybody thinks is too woke. How to be anti-racist. I think it's a pretty awesome book, but I think I'll probably get a lot of thumbs down if I were to do that video, which I would do eventually. But the person that wrote that book, what he says, which I agree, is everybody's taught to be racist. At when the day you're born, you're taught to be racist, and it's not just your parents; it's it's just the society that you grow up in. It's the movies you watch; they're all racist. When you watch a program and there's only one black guy, the token black art, when most of the people, your heroes, are, blue-eyed, white, blonde-haired white guys, right? Or like they're always the ones that you see as the ones on top, and they're, you're conditioned to, bad guys and villains or people that die are the minorities, right? And as well as when you read books in school, they're mostly books about and by white men. So you're conditioned to be like, to have this white superiority complex, even if it doesn't matter your race or whatever, right? So he would argue, like the person that wrote that book would argue, like everybody begins as racist, because they're not born that way. It's just like immediately when you immediately come out of your mother's womb, you start seeing media and like messaging and like exposure that's racist. So the programming already starts happening. So you have to change. Like if you don't change, you're just by default racist. So absolutely, like change has to happen. But do some people change and some people don't? Even though when they learn, because like what happens is that book comes out and it's like, oh, don't give me that woke shit. Right? That's too woke for me. See, that's like a refusal to change. That's like, oh, you just don't want to like accept the fact that this is actually a thing. Like, see, that kind of stuff. The whole like anti-woke movement is like, to me, that's like people like, okay, we're telling you that you're this, but you're like, I don't want to hear it. Right? That's what I think. That's a disingenuous framing of it. Facebook is a social media platform. The people spreading misinformation are responsible. Your opinion is wrong. Yeah, so, I would disagree. Breezy Briss. I think it is the responsibility of the person. I mean, we live in a society, and like I was saying, the people have responsibility, but the society, the environment is also responsible. Right? The environment is also responsible. If you grow up in a world, if from the day you're born you start seeing messages that are racist, then it's not your fault that you're racist. Right? But you are also responsible to get out of it. You do have some responsibility, right? But you can't say like, oh, when if you are like, you're a little kid and all you see is like that experiment that they did in I forgot what they called the experiment, but it was like done in the 60s, I think, in America, where they had the baby dolls, and they had the white baby doll and the black baby doll. I forgot what this experiment was called, but it was a famous experiment. Right. And the people, it was white kids and black kids, and they had to choose which one's the good baby and which one's the bad baby. And like everybody, most of them would say like, oh, the white baby's a good baby and the black baby is a bad baby. Even the black kids would say like, oh, the black baby's bad, because they've been programmed that way. It wasn't even their fault, right? So, as a society, we have to like get rid of that programming. Right? Likewise with Mark Zuckerberg, he needs to develop a platform where it's not easy for misinformation to be pushed, right? If you should, like, it's your responsibility as a person, as the creator of the platform, to like make it, not make it as easy to do harm. Right? Don't you think, like, as a person that's designing the thing, if it's easy for somebody to do harm, you should be like, okay, I created this thing. Right? Let me like make an effort and see if I can reduce the harm. Right? Of course, like the users have responsibility too. But if your platform makes it extremely easy for people to do harm, like the person that created the platform, it's their fault too. Right? They should make it, at least like make a little effort to be like, okay, let me do certain things like filter out misinformation, or at least flag it and be like, this thing doesn't have verified sources, like Twitter used to do. But I don't think they do that now since Elon Musk took it over. But Twitter used to do, they used to be like, this tweet does not have verified sources. Right? Or like, I think that's responsible, and I think that is the responsibility of the platform creators. And I'm in support of that, right? As opposed to like doing nothing. That's irresponsible, in my opinion. The root of the problem. A cause and effect. Yeah, I mean, the cause of racism, I mean, that's a whole discussion altogether. And I've actually made several videos about that. Right, if you want to check it out. I don't know. I guess it would be my playlist titled "Why is this channel called the Black Ponder?" Right. That's a really deep discussion. What is the cause of racism? Right. That's something we should talk about, but people don't really want to talk about that because it's a hard discussion to have. Oh, you said you meant shooting sulfur into the atmosphere? Oh, yeah. Oh, shooting sulfur into the atmosphere. I don't know. I don't know about that. I have to look it up before I don't know if that's the thing. That I guess if you shoot sulfur, it'll reflect the sun or something. I don't know. I have no idea. I'd have to look into that. I haven't heard of that one. We need to get rid of all gasoline cars. Oh, California plans to do that by 2050. I heard that was like a 2030 thing, but I guess not. I guess they're like, well, that's a little too soon. Let's push it back a little bit. The problem is production of electricity, which will still require fossil fuel to generate electricity. And so, our job would then be to like develop methods to not have that be the case. Right. We got to like dedicate scientific research into not doing that. See, and that's what I'm talking about. Is like, instead of like all those scientists that are like working on going to Mars, you should like all those scientists convert them to like, okay, you're going to focus now on being able let's work on figuring out a way to generate electricity without using fossil fuel. Like, that's your job now. Because that is a way more important problem than going to Mars. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, like, that's just a situation of resource allocation. It's like, I think that's a problem that could be solved. It's just we gotta dedicate that. And then we have Deshaun, who's got the communist or the socialist symbol, if I'm not mistaken. Law, real estate, redlining, criminal justice, food deserts. There you go. I'm a vegan for health reasons. I have a lot of those friends who say that too, but not doing that animals, to be honest. But unintentionally, I save millions of animals by not eating meat. Yeah, that's cool, and that's valid. That's definitely valid. Being a vegan is very healthy, and good on you. Mark is not responsible for misinformation on Facebook or its proliferation, only its moderation, in my opinion. Okay. So he should moderate. Right? He doesn't even think that's his responsibility. Right? I mean, moderation is a whole thing, right? It's hard to be a moderator. It is not easy to moderate. Right? I mean, he doesn't even want to take responsibility for that, or he's like, he didn't even say like, oh, I dropped a ball with moderation. He's like, hey, that's not my fault. It's like, hey, I'm just asking for that. I know people, like, users are gonna put information, any type of information like that you can't control. But like you said, you can't control, you can't moderate it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, I mean, he on Facebook, like, people who do misinformation is pushed more to the forefront than people who are doing who are stating real facts. I mean, there are cases where people who put real facts are banned and people who put misinformation are like blown up. And the reason why we know why is because misinformation is profitable. You make money off of that, which is what he's concerned about. Let's keep it real. So I don't know, that's my opinion. Have you read Heidegger's What is Called Thinking? No. Eventually I will read Heidegger. Once I'm off my Hegel binge. I think after this book I'm reading, then I'll transition to another book. I might actually like Heidegger might be the next one. Either Heidegger or Sartre. Oh no, it's not gonna be that. It's gonna be like Kant's A Critique of Practical Reason. I think that's what. So it's gonna be a long way from Heidegger, but eventually I want to do him. That's why I'm all for diversity in entertainment, like in television and in movies. Yeah, diversity, and not fake ass diversity, right? Like real diversity, meaning like allowing diverse creators instead of like just having white people create stuff where black people or people of color are in it. No, let's put like people of color, like queer people. Let's have them like write the stuff or direct the stuff. Let's give them the opportunity. Then you'll start seeing the real diversity. Have you read Demons by Dostoevsky? I have. I gotta make a video about it. That's another person I gotta get back on. Dostoevsky. That's my favorite novelist. So that's a future video, but I haven't made a video yet. I think it's because misinformation is sensationalist and gets to click. Yeah, it is. But like, so the problem is like, and Mark Zuckerberg's guilty of this. It's like, so that's what you care about. You care about clicks and that's what you care about. You don't actually care about the harm that you're causing people. Like, what's more important to him is the profit he's making. See, that's my issue. And it's like, okay, I understand you're a business and you are, your goal is to make money, but I mean, how much money do you have? Do you need? You already got billions. It's just like, at a certain point, you gotta be like, okay, it's time to start doing the right thing. But of course, like, that's a lot to ask for for people like him. Let's see. I lost my well put, sir. If children are exposed to a racist environment, most likely they will grow up racist themselves, but they can change if they see that racism is wrong. Yeah. I definitely agree. Anybody can change. I'm not saying that there's people who can't change. I'm just saying there's sometimes people like to pretend that people don't make the decision not to change. It's like, and I just want to remind people, like, there are people who they're confronted with their demons and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace the demons. That is the thing that happens. Lots of people change, some people don't, and it's not because they can't, it's because they just desire not to. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. From people who disagree, Sartre just takes from Heidegger. I'll have to read Heidegger to see. I'm sure Sartre does have a lot of his own stuff, but yeah, he probably takes a lot from Heidegger. Being and Nothingness. Yeah, that's definitely a book. I'm trying to look for that. Oh, I see it. It's right there. That is definitely a goal of mine, to make a video of that book, Being and Nothingness. That's good. You're gonna see that video one day. But I think, yeah, like you're saying, since Sartre takes from Heidegger, I think it'll be good to read Heidegger first. And Matrix was written by trans. They're trans. The Wachowskis. Yeah, and apparently they even say like, "Oh, this is a story. This is a trans story." Which, okay, if that's what you say. Interestingly, fun fact, and I think most people know. I think the Wachowskis wanted Will Smith to play the main Neo, but Will Smith said no. Instead he decided to do Wild West, which was like not the best movie in the world. I bet he's kicking himself for it. But although, I saw an interview of him and he was saying, oh no, I think like Wild West, that was the movie for me. That was a better, and you say that. And so I think the other thing was, I think they also wanted Jada Pinkett Smith to be Trinity. That was what they had in mind. But I guess when they went for Keanu Reeves, they're like, okay, let's go with I think, what is her name? The Trinity lady. Not Kate Moss. Kate Moss is like a supermodel. I don't know what the actress's name is. But I mean, that's a good example, right? I just mentioned that. I know Will Smith you got controversy now, but like as you can see, you get diverse trans people. They're gonna start casting black people. You get more diverse cast. Even though eventually Jada Pinkett played another character, and you had what was his name? What's his name? Morpheus. Oh, I forgot. Y'all know. It's a shame. Sometimes names just slip you, but big actor, got his own TV show. He plays a cop show now. Nikola Tesla, technology is the key to solve climate change, but that's not going to happen because of the oil industries, right? Right. So how do we deal with that? Politics is a political problem that we have to solve. We can't it's not a technical problem, is it? It's like if we just have because we have the technological capability, that's not the problem. The problem is there's people in power that are like, I don't want to give up my power, so we're just going to continue to destroy the environment so I can keep my money. So and to that end, we gotta go to government and be like, okay, government, you gotta tell these oil companies, we gotta make laws and regulations to be like, no, we're gonna stop this. You're just, and sometimes you gotta treat, some people want to act like children, so you gotta treat them like children. It's like, no, you're destroying humanity, so we're just not gonna let you be free anymore. You can't do these kinds of things anymore. Right, but that would involve a lot of political action, and then you got this world where people are like, I don't want to involve myself in politics, and therefore you have the oil industry like, okay, we get a free reign, we can do whatever the hell we want. So that's the issue we live in. Yeah, is he? What's this? He has original ideas, radical freedom, French existentialists. Oh, you're talking about Sartre, okay. German idealism, cool. Influence, okay, yep. Fukuyai, okay. Okay, let's see. Did I have any other topics to cover that I didn't? Yeah, basically. I guess the last thing I'll say, if there's no other things to discuss, I put in my notes here, primary sources versus secondary sources. I just mentioned that because it was interesting. I was talking to somebody on the internet who was commenting on my videos, my Hegel philosophy videos. And he invited me to talk to this other guy on YouTube who also does Hegel philosophy, which is great. More people doing philosophy, the better. That's cool. But I think the issue was, you can check out all these people who talk about Hegel, and you might clear your ideas about Hegel. The thing is, though, like, I want to read Hegel myself first. Can I do that before going to other people's interpretation of Hegel? And I think that's the thing too. That's the thing too. I think a lot of people, and I know Hegel is very difficult to read, and and generally speaking, it can be difficult to consult the primary sources because they're often like dense material, and so you want to get like the quick note, the Sparks Notes version, or the short version, or the summary edition. You want somebody to just summarize, but that's another problem we have, right? We go to other people for things like, we go to secondary sources. Of course, you're going to go to another person for data, right? For example, when I read Hegel, I'm reading a translator, right? Of course, because I can't read German or Latin, so I'm going to have to rely on a translator. So, I do my research and see like, okay, is this translator, is this person a good translator, or what's his reputation in the translation world, or like where is this translator getting, where is they established? If they're like from a prestigious school like Princeton or Stanford or something, like, okay, I'm gonna like kind of put a little bit more weight on it because the institution has to they have a reputation to keep, so they can't just have anybody translate for them, because what if they have just bad translations, then their reputation, their prestige gets lower, right? So they gotta have like kind of top people doing the work for them. Put this back. So I look for those kinds of things. But so the last thing I want to say is I just want to encourage people to take some time and read the primary sources, like the actual, rather than somebody's summary or opinion of things. Much like the Black Ponder, my videos, like I consider my videos like trailers or teasers. So if you like, I did a book on Walden, we talked about that. But if you're interested in Walden, don't take my word for it. Like, okay, read the book. I would hate for somebody to look at a video of mine about a text and they will finish the video like, okay, that's all I need to do. I know everything about this book now. No, I'm just a teaser. I'm a trailer. I would encourage you now read the book, because you're gonna learn a lot more, and you might, of course, you're gonna probably find mistakes that I made, or like, oh, okay, or maybe your opinion differs. Like, I don't think I agree with this person, the Black Ponder here, which is valid, because a lot of people I make videos about, their ideas are so dense, you're allowed many different interpretations that are valid. So that's what my thing, because that was back to my original point was this person was like sharing with me, okay, you should he has this really good series on Hegel for beginners, and like, I'm not interested in that, man. I'm reading Hegel by myself. I don't need that. I mean, I'll check it out later, like after I'm done. Maybe he has some insights that I'm not aware of, which is probably true, but I'm not gonna like, I want to like check the source myself first. So I think that's another thing with data analysis. And the final thing that just reminds me of, I remember I saw a documentary about Martin Luther, not Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but the guy he's named after, Martin Luther, the guy, the dude that started the Reformation, right? The branch of Christianity, which I'm a part of that. I grew up in the church, religious, and I'm a Lutheran, right? And it was interesting. It started talking about this documentary about Martin Luther, talked about the wide influence it had, and it focused on it had two people who was influenced by two people was influenced by Martin Luther. That read Martin Luther and based off of his ideas did their thing. One of them was Hitler. Adolf Hitler. He read Martin Luther extensively. and he was influenced a lot. A lot of his ideas are influenced off of Martin Luther. Crazy. So that was one person. And then the other person was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who also read Martin Luther extensively and was influenced by a lot of what he said. And the documentary made this great point. It's like two people, radically different in terms of like their philosophies in life, read the same person, Martin Luther, and got two completely different interpretations. Right? So that's why it's so important to read the primary source, right? Because if you start reading the secondary sources, you could get like completely different understandings of somebody's work or anything, not just work, just like an experience or like a fact or like evidence or some sort of experience. You should like really like look for the primary source and develop your mind for yourself. But of course, like that's not to say secondary sources aren't important. They're critical, but what's even more critical is the primary source, because secondary sources are good supplements, like my videos, for instance. They can help you out, but they're definitely no replacement for the primary source. That's all. I think that's another way to combat misinformation, is to, instead of relying on like secondary sources, go to the main source, right? Instead of like relying on the Facebook post, go to like what the Facebook post is referencing, right? And then develop your opinion there. Okay, so final things here. Have you read Scaling? No. It's good to learn the things about the cultures beside your own. Learn Japanese okay. So I don't know if I'm gonna do that today. Should I do that? I think I will. So we're about to end the stream, but if you Let's Create 08 said if you want to join me, probably in 30 minutes or so, but be on Twitch doing Japanese study, if that interests you in any way. I play Japanese video games, and video games in Japanese, and learn Japanese through that. if that's just something you want to do. So I'll probably do that in 30 minutes. Process Philosophy or Whitehead? Nope, haven't read those. Games bring people together. Yeah, it's true. Whitehead is based. I have a friend who's really into Whitehead. Yeah, I'll have to check that thinker out. I enjoyed. Okay, cool. Okay, then. Hopefully the sound was good. I think I'll just honestly, unless I should have had the camera there. Unless I find a really good video capture card on the cheap, I probably will just stick to my webcam. In all honesty, because the sound is most important. But other than that, I will bid y'all farewell until the next stream. The next stream might be a different time. It's going to be a different time because I think that's the 15th. And I'm doing something on the 15th. I'm still probably going to do it on the day of, but it might be late. It might be real late. Or it could be earlier. I might do something like that earlier. Yeah, I'll probably do it earlier. But you'll know. I'll just post it on there. It'll probably be a different time. And if you can, but the same day, the Saturday. So check me out if you would like to do so. But until then, I'll see you next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for talking. And we had a good time, and I'm loving it. And look forward to the video eventually that I'll come out of The Science of Logic by Hegel.